So let's look at this third column. We're going to add on the Metro DPA assistance at the 4% assistance level. $350,000 purchase price. Now the total loan amount, okay, this is the first mortgage and the second mortgage, is $337,948. The interest rate is higher on Metro DPA because they're receiving down payment assistance. In this case, though, that payment only jumps up to $1,861. The reason it only goes up a little bit, I'm assuming this borrower is under that 80% area median income. So the cost of the mortgage insurance dropped because they're getting a discount on the PMI because they're going with Metro DPA and they're under that 80% area median income. So in this case, even though that appraisal came in $15,000 low, they're only bringing in $5,000 more cash to the table. That's a low down payment, 3% down borrower. Well, what if that's not enough? They got like no money, right? Let's look at the next option. $350,000, they're getting 5% assistance here instead of 4%. The total loan amount, the first and second, $341,197. Interest rate bumps up a little bit more. The way that works is they're getting more assistance. The interest rate goes up a little bit too. And this is a blended rate. I'm going to show you the breakdown on the rates here in just a quick second, but the way it's a blended rate is because the first mortgage is at 3.875, and then the silent second or the down payment assistance loan is at 0. So it's blending those loan amounts and it's blending those rates together. So that's where that blended rate comes from. All right, so monthly payments, $1,907. It was $1,828. Okay, so that's about $80, $81 more, give or take. Cash to close, $17,470. That's about $1,700 more cash to close. That's not bad. All right, so that's how we can use down payment assistance to bridge an appraisal gap with a low down payment borrower. All right, obviously they have to qualify for the program. Got to make sure that they are eligible for Metro DPA. If they make $200,000 a year, probably not gonna be able to do this. But if you're making $200,000 a year, you should probably have more than 3% saved. Just my thing. All right,
so the question on that is this only available in the Denver metro area?
Hang on one second and I'll answer that question.
Okay.
It's in most, yeah, I mean, it's in the Metro Denver type areas, right? Now they are adding new municipalities, new areas all the time. I think they just added Windsor, I want to say. They're growing, they're not quite statewide. So that's the one thing about Metro DPA is it's not statewide, but 99 times out of 100, you're probably going to be able to use Metro DPA. What I found is if it's not in like a Metro Denver area or an eligible area for Metro DPA, we're kind of looking at USDA as an alternative because that's 0% down. It's in a rural area, probably less competitive. So that's kind of been the trade-off there.
So Kim has a great question. It says, do they have to do their loan through Metro DPA or is down payment assistance entirely separate?
The loan would be through Metro DPA. It's not like they get just the assistance and stack it with their current loan. It's a Metro DPA down payment assistance loan. It's the first and the second. Now, we fund both the first and the second. There's no separate underwriting component. We do everything in-house. I can close Metro DPA in 2 to 3 weeks. I've done it before because there's not that separate underwriting component.
Awesome. And Diana put a link to Metro DPA in the chat box. Thanks, Diana. That was super cool of you.
The other thing on Metro DPA really quick is there are 2 servicers, okay? Not every lender is approved with both servicers. And the reason that's important is there's different interest rates and different qualifying parameters or guidelines between the 2 servicers. For instance, one of them allows rescores, the other one does not. One of them allows cosigners, the other one does not. So it's important that your lender, if you're not going to work with me or my team, is signed up with both lenders or both investors.
Awesome. Continue on.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there. It's 1:40. We're almost done, I promise. All right, so what about VA and FHA? Okay, FHA and VA with a larger down payment is a game changer. Now, here's the deal. If they're doing VA 0% down or FHA 3.5% down, you might want to be thinking about doing Metro DPA and adding on that down payment assistance, just like that strategy I showed you, because we already maxed out that loan to value, okay? If they need to bridge an appraisal gap, we're going to add on that down payment assistance. That's how we do that. I'm talking here about FHA and VA with a larger down payment than the minimum requirement. Okay, FHA is 3.5% down, VA is 0% down. But what if that borrower is doing 10% down with FHA or 10% down with VA? What does that look like? So what's cool about that, there's an automatic built-in appraisal gap. Oh, there we go. Minimum down payment on FHA is 3.5, minimum down on VA is 0%. So if we have an FHA purchase at $550,000, that borrower or buyer is doing 10% down, that gives us a base loan amount of $495,000. We'll take the $495,000, we divide it by 0.965, and that tells us that we need a minimum value of $513,000. 513 minus 550 is a $37,000 appraisal gap. If that appraisal were to come in at 513 or higher, there's no change, or well, a minor, if it's FHA, there's a minor change to the PMI cost, like very, very minor. I'm talking like maybe $10, and there's no change to the rate. And there's a change to the cancellation feature. So I'm not going to get into too much of that about FHA. You can see me after the class if you got questions about how the PMI is calculated, but for the most part, that wouldn't change their cash to close, hardly changes their payment. Now, a VA purchase at 550 with 10% down, okay, gives us a base loan amount of 495. You divide that 495 by 1% because we can do 100% financing, right? That tells us that value can come in as low as 495. So there's a $55,000 appraisal gap automatically built into that offer. So you don't have to shy away from VA, you don't have to shy away from FHA, especially if there's a larger down payment. Now note, there will be a change to the funding fee for non-exempt veterans. If they're starting out at a 90% loan to value and it increases to 100%, there could be a change to that veteran's funding fee unless they're exempt. All right, so let me show you the FHA VA scenario really quick. So the first two columns are going to be FHA. I'm assuming FHA's got a lower credit score, all right? Interest rate starting out at 2.5%, 550. Loan amount's higher because of the upfront funding fee that FHA charges. Total monthly payment, $2,800, cash to close 61. Appraisal came in at $515,000, $35,000 low. I'm not going to change the loan amount. Interest rate still 2.5%. Payment goes up a little bit. That's the nominal cost because the FHA mortgage insurance bumped up. Cash to close, in this case, actually dropped. The reason for that is we had about a $2,000 more that we could put onto the loan instead of needing the borrower to bring in cash. That's why the cash to close actually dropped in that scenario. So remember, that appraisal could come in as low as 513. It came in at 515 in this case. So we could put a little bit more on the loan and decrease the borrower's down payment or decrease your cash to close. That's why it shows up as that way. So here's our VA scenario. 550 purchase price, they're starting out 10% down, rates 2.25. These are rates as of today, by the way. Payment, $2,400 a month, cash to close, $60,000. Now, we're assuming this veteran is not exempt from the funding fee. So there will be a change to the funding fee, so that loan amount does increase there. We haven't changed the purchase price, rate's still the same. Payment bumps up just a little bit because remember that funding fee is being added into the loan, so slightly higher loan. Cash to close is exactly the same. Okay, so I don't know, hopefully you guys can agree this is a pretty badass strategy. All right, 1:45, that's pretty on time. 35 minutes. What questions can I help answer?
Okay, so one question is, can you do this with multifamily for VA?
Yeah, you can. Trying to think here. If we were doing like the down payment assistance to bridge that appraisal gap, I will need to see, and maybe Dee Dee knows the answer to this, I'll need to see if we can do down payment assistance with VA on multifamily through Metro DPA. That I don't know. But yeah, certainly if it's a veteran doing 10% down on a multifamily or so something greater than the minimum, then yeah, we can do the same thing.
What if the vet is doing 0% down?
If they're doing 0% down, that's where it's like, we'll look at down payment assistance as an option, or they would need to bring in more cash to close. So remember, we can't exceed the loan to value. The max loan to value is 100% on VA. We can't do 112%, loan to value, right? So we're either adding down payment assistance or bringing in more cash to close. So this presentation is talking about FHA VA with a larger down payment than the minimum, or we can try looking at down payment assistance as an option.
Okay. Samantha was asking if you could explain the loan to value again.
Yep. So loan to value, we're taking the loan amount divided by the value. That's it. So the value is based on the lesser of the purchase price or the appraised value, right? So all you're doing is again, we haven't changed the purchase price in any of these scenarios. It's still the same. Well, what happens is that appraisal comes in low, right? So just divide your loan amount by the new value, which is the lesser of the two, in this case, the appraisal. And that is our loan to value. And then there's benchmarks. How high in loan to value can we go?
Okay, awesome. And Robin said she doesn't really understand the VA 100% loan.
So VA is 100% financing. So if it's a 0% down payment, that's a 100% financing. $500,000 purchase price, shoot, a lot of people don't know that you can do 0% down up to like, I mean, VA removed that cap, by the way, in December of 2019. So if you want, I've got a borrower doing right now, he's doing like a $2 million loan, 0% down on VA. You can do that.
Okay. Daria would like to know, can you refinance the primary loan after using the Metro DPA without negating the 3-year forgiveness on the second?
So the rule, remember that down payment assistance loan with Metro is being forgiven on a monthly schedule over 3 years. If they refinance after 1 year, okay, after 12 months, only 1/3 of that down payment assistance would be forgiven. The borrower would then need to bring in, cash to close or finance the rest of that down payment assistance loan, the 2/3, into their new loan amount, okay, because they'd only forgive 1/3 of it. If they move out, okay, after a year, they only forgive it as long as it's a primary residence. So they have to maintain it as a primary for 3 years in order for it to be forgiven. So I've got some people that are doing house hacks that are wanting to live in it for a year, go buy another house and do another house hack, and then they go do another one. If they do that, you're only going to forgive 1/3 of that down payment assistance every time. So if they want all of that assistance to be forgiven, they have to live there for 3 years. And if you refinance early, within the 3-year period, they're going to be paying some of that down payment assistance back.
Okay. Don would like to know, for VA buyers, do you write offer with the % down or the appraisal gap, or both?
I think with VA, again, I'm just thinking about if they're doing a down payment, right? And, if it's 550 minus 10% down, or 55,000, that's a 495 loan amount. So in that case, you could basically write in a $55,000 appraisal gap. So you just show on your contract sheet, 550 purchase price minus loan amount of 495 equals 55,000 cash to close. That's your appraisal gap, basically. Now, if it's 0% down, we'd have to do some math before, make sure they can actually qualify for down payment assistance, and then see how high can we actually increase that. What kind of appraisal gap can we get with Metro DPA?
Okay. Susan would like to know, does FHA offer an MI single pay premium?
No, FHA is actually, the PMI is paid twice. So there's an upfront mortgage insurance premium, which is 1.75% of the loan amount, no matter what. And they also pay it at either 0.85 or 0.8% on a 30-year fix. So that's the difference. If it's 5% down, the monthly PMI rate is 0.8% of the loan amount. If they're doing 3.5% down or less than 5, then the PMI rate is 0.85%. So they pay both ways. There's an upfront portion and a monthly component with FHA.
Okay. Samantha has a question just to make sure she's really grasping what she's hearing here. And she says, just so she understands correctly, when she's writing a contract that needs appraisal gap coverage, she writes the appraisal gap the same. And if it comes down to it, the buyer doesn't actually need to bring the gap because we're changing the PMI.
Yeah, we're changing the loan to value. We're changing the PMI. That's correct.
Okay.
You just have to do the math beforehand, right? Let me go back to that slide. Hold on. All right. $500,000 list price, contract price is $600,000. Borrower's got $100K for down payment. So $600K minus $100,000 down is a $500,000 loan amount. You just take the $500,000 loan, divide by 600 value, or excuse me, the purchase price, that's 83%. So that's what it is going into the deal. 500,000 divided by 600 contract price is 83% loan to value. And we know, because we've calculated this beforehand, what is the max loan to value that we can go to? In this case, we're going to assume 95%. So assuming we can go to 95%, you take the 500,000, which is the loan amount, okay, divided by 0.95, and that says that appraisal can come in as low as 526,315. And you just do the math, 600 minus 526, $73,684 appraisal gap.
Okay. Jonathan is making a big statement. He said, so this is all going to hinge on your lender and if they can increase your buyer's LTV?
Correct. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. There has to be flexibility in loan to value. There has to be generally flexibility on the debt to income ratio as well. The other thing too, if they're a 660 FICO borrower doing conventional financing, the cost of the PMI is probably going to be a lot more than $30 a month. It might be like $180 a month, right? So that's where credit score is also a concern. You have to be working with a lender that understands these concepts and knows how to calculate this stuff before you're under contract.
Okay. Sue Kenner says she works a lot of Denver MMA and she loves this program. What is the max down payment assistance they can receive? Is it 5%?
Denver MMA is now Metro DPA. Denver MMA isn't even a program anymore. They revamped it. It's now Metro DPA as of 2018. Denver MMA, they were giving a 4% grant, which was immediately forgivable. I don't know of any grant programs right now other than Chaffa, and it's only 3%. It's really not that good, frankly. So anyway, that's what Metro DPA is. It was Denver MMA, but now it's Metro DPA with a forgivable second, not a grant.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. I want to point out that Seth has a great newsletter that he sends out once a week. How would they get set up with that?
So if you go to the sendmore.info, you'll automatically get these 3 presentations that I put in the presentation here, and you'll automatically be signed up for that newsletter. You can opt out at any time, but I do try to put value into that. I custom write that stuff, just things that people I think should know in the industry. We had a good one a while back that talked about condo requirements, what makes a condo warrantable versus non-warrantable. I still get this one all the time. Well, the owner occupancy ratios are off. Well, if it's a primary residence and you're doing conventional financing, okay, the owner occupancy ratios don't matter. So it only matters if it's an investment property or if it's FHA. FHA has to have at least 50% owner occupancy. Conventional, they don't have that requirement if it's an owner occupancy or if it's an owner occupied residence.
Okay, cool. I do have one more question from Brianna. She asks, do buyers don't have to use the Metro DHA to do this, right? Or DPA?
That's only if they're doing like they're starting out at 3% down, their max loan to value is already 97%, and they needed to bridge an appraisal gap and didn't have the extra cash on hand. Then we'd be looking at doing Metro DPA because their loan to value is already maxed at 97% before the appraisal comes in. So again, once that appraisal comes in, if it's low, look at doing down payment assistance, preferably Metro DPA.
Very cool. Thank you so much. This is great info. It's such a, to be able to fit it into a 30-minute presentation, but it's such like big idea. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions. So Leona said, where is the send more info link? It's right on the screen right now. The link is sendmore.info.
Yep. And I'll throw it into the chat log too.
There you go. And Amanda would like to know, what would you say is an estimate of extra fees when you go that route?
So which route, like with Metro?
That's what I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yes, she says yes.
Okay. I'll pull up this presentation because when you're looking at the cash to close here, this is, sorry, hold on one second. That $17,470, that's everything. That's the closing costs, that's the down payment, the prepaid expenses, that is all of their cash to close. So yes, Metro DPA, really any down payment assistance, if you're doing down payment assistance, there's a 1% origination fee that lenders are going to charge because that's how we make money on those. If we didn't charge that 1% origination, we're doing that loan for free. So yes, the fees are higher when it's down payment assistance, but the cash to close is usually lower because they're getting that assistance, and that assistance would cover the origination fee, down payment, other closing costs. But when you're looking at this presentation and that cash to close is $17,470, that's everything out the door. Appraisal gap, down payment, purchase, cash to close, or excuse me, closing costs, prepaids, whole 9 yards.
Okay. And do you know if Metro DPA is available in Colorado Springs?
Sort of. It's not Metro DPA, it's called El Paso Turnkey, but it's basically the same program.
Lovely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. I will, with that being said, we'll wrap this up, but